we'll have released 63 songs. Yeah. And this song about the Cracker Barrel I was talking about is how everybody, there's all kinds of different people, and somebody's studying the ancient Rome, and somebody's out smoking a cigarette, and somebody's falling asleep, but they all, so it's a bunch of different lives, but they're all here together tonight at the Cracker Barrel. And it's pretty cool. Pretty cool. Yes?
And a lot of those songs just got, a lot of your most recent stuff just got released on Spotify on Friday.
Yes. We released, we did what we call a soft release on every remaining song on Spotify. If you don't have Spotify, get a hold of it and look up John R. Schneider. And you can listen to all this stuff from the Odyssey. And there are so far 52 songs on there. We're going to release the other 10 or 11 probably within the next month.
iTunes too.
It's on iTunes as well.
Now, what's your favorite song out of the
My favorite song currently is a song called Thank God You Do. Used to be you'd never catch me on my knees, praying to anyone, praying for anything. It's a love song, it's great. Just figured I was down here on my own. Don't need that. Just another lonely soul, kicking dust down a lonely road. But you showed up and made me a believer that there's something bigger out there. It's kind of a Superman song. It's odd, isn't it? Check out the Odyssey, but check out that song, because one of the lyrics in there, because as you're going through life, there are people who make you want to be better, there are people who make you want to stay where you are, and there are people who want to drag you down. Hang out with the ones who want to make you better. Hang out with the ones who think you are better than you are, and you will be. And one of the lines in that song is, I don't know what you see in me that makes you want to see this through, but thank God you do. Yay. Hang out with that person.
And I understand you're going to be on Dancing with the Stars?
I'm not at liberty to say. But if that were true, I'd appreciate thousands of votes.
Next season?
I'm not at liberty to say. I don't. Maybe Wednesday we'll find something out. Yes.
How was it like when you got to see Clark Kent fly for the first time on television? Or
you mean, and that was at in the last one?
Yeah.
I thought it was very cool. We had a rule on Smallville: no flights, no tights, from the very beginning. And because if you follow it through, once tights and flights, it would have to be that order. Once that started, then it was no longer Smallville; it was Superman. So Tom was very, very. As we got further into it, Tom Welling was much more strict about no, because as you're trying to keep a show going, you want to do more new and unusual things. So they kept wanting to go to the Superman thing, Superman. But he wouldn't have anything to do with it, which I thought was great. So personally, though, I think the show should have ended with that.
Yeah,
I would agree with that.
I thought so too.
Yeah,
and complicated and everything.
Yeah, and then it should have just gone black, and you should have heard the noise.
Yes. And leave it up to the imagination to finish it.
Yeah, but still what they did, I think, after shows like The Sopranos ended so poorly, I thought Smallville really ended very, very well. So it was, and I got to hand him the suit, which was very important to me, and that was in the very last episode, and because they knew the show was stopping, they couldn't afford to have me there to do that. So we negotiated a thing where they basically fired me, and then I came in because I so desperately wanted to do that, and I got a day rate like SAG minimum, whatever it was. I got less to do that episode than it cost to get me there. But I wanted to do that. I could not imagine a world where Clark Kent just found the suit in ice, or God forbid, Jor-El gave it to him. You know, I thought, no, this is all the climax of this whole relationship is always hold on to Smallville. And I can tell by the reaction of people that come up, he's one of them, that really meant something to them. So I was so honored to do it. And then my boy flew. He's still flying.
Thank you personally for being Clark Kent's dad. It meant a lot to me growing up, seeing the show, seeing that different doesn't always have to be pushed down. It's accepted in families and stuff. And I just want to say thank you.
That makes me very happy. Thank you. Yes, sir.
So, you've mentioned Denver Pile a couple of times. I'm so old. I remember Grizzly Adams. You all remember Grizzly Adams?
Number 7.
Yeah, number 7. Yes. Just, can you talk more about Denver and the kind of guy he was and the
Denver
stuff he
was
did?
wonderful.
Yeah.
Businessman. He had investments in coal mines and all kinds of things.
Wow.
So he paid attention. So when he was in Utah doing Grizzly Adams, he bought into some things up there. He had a beautiful old Bentley convertible car that we worked on it. I had a shop called Celebrity Machine. So he would trust me with things. When my first marriage was falling apart, I was very young, very silly to have gotten married or divorced so quickly. He had a boat, a ship, sailing ship, and he said if I ever needed to just kind of get away. And in that day, there were only 3 networks, so Dukes of Hazzard was popular beyond your wildest imagination. So it really was hard to go anywhere. So I'd go down to the boat and just kind of hide out. So he was wonderful. He was caring. I think he tried to raise Grizzly Adams better, Dan Haggerty. But,
Yeah, he was a troubled person too, wasn't he, Dan Haggerty?
He was what?
A troubled person.
Well, yeah, he was. It's hard. It's hard to deal with being a celebrity. I think it was harder then, honestly. I think it was harder then because we had 28 million people a week on average watching the Dukes of Hazzard.
Yeah.
So it was crazy.
Yeah.
And I watched Grizzly Adams. So it was tough. But he knew that. He would tell you, look, it's tough, and people are going to try to take things from you. And I said, what does that mean? Like my car? He said, no, people are going to try to suck you into conversations and take little pieces of your soul. And don't share that with people that aren't people that you are sure really love you. So these were the kinds of conversations I would have in Denver.
Yeah.
And it was wonderful. I was 18. And since then, we've done a couple of films at John Schneider Studios. One is called Like Sun, one is called Smothered, and one is called Four to Go. And Don Shanks is in all 3 of those, and he was Nakoma in Grizzly Adams. So if you want to see Nakoma, then watch, go to johnschneiderstudios.com. The ripped Indian.
Yes.
Nakoma,
He was
great.
the blood brother.
And now he's a ripped. Don is close to 70, and he's a force to reckon with.
That's cool.
So check that stuff out, especially Like Sun.
Thank you.
All right, you're welcome. Yes.
First, I'd love to say I love the Dukes of Hazzard. I
Yeehaw!
get the whole complete DVD every night.
Thank you.
But what I'd like to know is, you had a show with Christmas Come to Willow Creek.
See, now there's another sighting.
Both you and Tom together.
Yes,
When did all that start? How did that come about?
that was on CBS. It's been on CBS for Christmas every year since we've done it. A wonderful producer woman named Blue Andre wanted to get the Dukes of Hazzard back together in roles where they didn't get along. And at that point, they were comparing us to Butch and Sundance. It was like Redford and Newman. and they wanted something where Redford and Newman didn't get along. So this delightful script came around, and Tom and I hadn't done anything else together. We still haven't, other than one episode of Smallville, we haven't done anything else together, which is so strange. So as soon as I read that, as soon as Tom read it, it was like, we've got to do this. This is going to be great fun. And then they threw Hoyt Axton into the mix, and I've always been a big fan of music. And Hoyt he wrote, Jeremiah was a bullfrog. And great singer. So it was really a no-brainer for us. We shot that up, I was telling this young man, we shot that up in Dawson City, Yukon, which is, if you're a historian at all and you've ever looked at the Time Life pictures of the gold rush, there's a picture of looks like a stream of ants climbing up over a mountain covered in snow. And those are people, those are prospectors, and they are headed to Dawson City, Yukon, where we filmed the show. And when they got there, the buildings we filmed in were the ones they got to, because nothing really has happened there since the gold rush. It's not densely populated, and hasn't been overbuilt. There's not a Hard Rock Cafe or a Stuckey's or even a Cracker Barrel. There's not even a Cracker Barrel in Dawson City, Yukon. So it was great fun.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen it, you should see it. Christmas Comes to Willow Creek. It's wonderful.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Douglas Schneider. I am from Napanee. I have two questions. One,
Okay.
on Smallville, of the main cast, of all the main cast, which one did you enjoy working with?
Oddly enough, I love Tom Welling, and great fun, and that was great fun, great, like, stoic work. But the one that just made me laugh, and it was hard to hate him so much, was Michael Rosenbaum. Yeah. I call him affectionately Michael Rosenclown. And he's a very odd guy. And he's not the Lex Luthor, not at all. And I think that's the mark of what a tremendous actor he is. So, yeah, the odd friendship on Smallville was Jonathan Kent and Lex Luthor. Yep.
My second question is, when you were on, I can't remember what season it was, but it's when, I do believe it was one of the final seasons in which your character appears as a ghost to Clark on the farm, and your character, Jonathan, does tell Clark there's a great darkness coming, in which it turns out it was Darkseid. How does it feel for you as Jonathan Kent for being in the show Smallville for so many years, and then in the end, as a spirit or something like that,
As a ghost or it was a great surprise to me that they called and said, Jonathan is going to come back, and I said, well, how's that going to work? And they explained that it was going to be kind of ambiguous, that Jonathan was just there. I believe, it's been a long time now, I had a theory that Jonathan should always be working. Even when Clark came home from school, and there was a lot of things written in Smallville where the parents were our world revolved around what happened in school today. Well, I had teenagers at that point, and that's not how it really works. It's like, yeah. So that's why you'd see Jonathan coming in from outside to talk to Clark, and I'd be putting my gloves down and getting a cup of coffee or something. So it's like trying to exhibit a life before this conversation, but it gives import to this conversation because I've stopped what I'm doing in order to have it. That makes sense? So I wanted to make sure that Jonathan wasn't just outstanding in his field. He wasn't just standing out there waiting to have this conversation. That even in death, Jonathan is still mending the fence. He's still a farmer at heart. So when I got the call to do that, I believe I might be giving myself too much credit for it, but I believe that I said, hey, if we're going to do that, then please let's have Jonathan mending a fence. Let's do something like that. And I'm not really sure. Personally, I believe if Smallville is true, then Jonathan was allowed, just like Jonathan was given special powers in that one episode where we had the fight and all that. I think Jonathan was allowed to come back in order to wrap up the life of Clark Kent so that he could become Superman. So I believe Jonathan was real at that point, and not a spirit, not a figment of Clark's imagination, not Dexter's dad, which I loved, but it wasn't Dexter's dad. He was real, as you can be. A show about Superman in high school.
Well, upon what you just said, that your character visiting Clark, kind of having the journey come full circle, that I saw that episode and it kind of felt like it was kind of like Jonathan was telling his son Clark to kind of be ready for this ultimate evil to come, because the way I see it is that Darkseid, he's actually kind of like almost like a major opposite of Superman, since Superman, he is a symbol of hope and what humanity can be. They can be better than themselves. But Darkseid, on the other hand, he is an absolute tyrant. He is a ruler. He wants, everyone in despair, worshiping him at his own feet. And your character actually mentions that great darkness, which is Darkseid coming in. It was almost kind of like that your character knew that Darkseid was coming, and kind of letting Clark know to kind of be ready, but also kind of for Clark to fully embrace his destiny.
Well, to embrace it and to be better than you are. You're better than you think you are. And things are going to come at you. I think it was fairly ambiguous, though. Things are going to come at you that you don't think you're ready for, but you are. So when they do, rely on the fact that you've been prepared for this moment. You are here for that. You are here for that moment. And it may scare you. It may make you wonder if you're ready for it. But trust me, you are. And that's not only something Jonathan Kent would say to Clark Kent. That's something I would say to my kids. That's something I would say to you. That you are where you are because of where you've been and because of what's coming. Trust your training, even if you're unaware of it. Trust your training. So I loved it. I thought Jonathan came in and went out with such glory. Even the episode where I died, I thought was one of the best hours of television ever. Ever. Yeah.
Do you remember the theme song from Dukes of Hazzard? Do you remember the theme song from Dukes of Hazzard?
Just a good old boy, never mean no harm. Yes, I do. In fact, you can sing it to me. My version of it on Spotify and iTunes and JohnSchneiderStudios.com because it's part of the Odyssey. Do you know it? Making their way the only way they know how. That's just a little bit more than the low life. Love that. Do you have another question? Was that it? Well, that was easy.
I have two questions. One's just kind of a funny thing.
I have three answers. What do you think of that?
Okay, so the funny question is, who do you think aged better, you or Tom?
He's speechless. Me. Next question. He's older though. Tom is 9 years older than I am.
Yeah.
So we're both close to something that starts with the letter S, just his is more dangerous than mine. But I tell you what, he can kick my butt. Tom grew up on a dairy farm, and that is a strong individual. So yeah. Yeah, but he played sports. I think I've aged well because I drink a lot of water, I drink a lot of moonshine, I drink a lot of tequila. But I think one of the reasons why I've aged well is because I never played a sport. I think that really takes such a toll on you as a young person. People have no concept of what that's doing to you. Yes.
My other question was, last night we were watching an episode of Dukes of Hazzard where your character was supposed to ride a horse, and it was an interesting looking stunt double that didn't really look like you. I was wondering if you can ride a horse?
I can, but I believe that was bareback, right?
No.
It wasn't the bareback, so it was Manassas. It was the one with Mel Tillis.
Yeah.
Mel Tillis. Yes, I can ride, but it's always so odd to jump on somebody else's horse and try to ride it in front of a camera, like right away. Because horses don't necessarily like cameras and lights. And you're trying to run a horse into a shot where it does not want to go. Unless it's a show like I also did Dr. Quinn Medicine Woman, and those horses were used to it. So we had a horse brought in to run next to the General Lee. I mean, my God. And this horse is scared. So yes, I can, but my stunt double actually hopefully made me look good. Maybe it didn't look like me, but my stunt double actually was a bulldogger. His name is Russell Solberg. And he's a great rider. Unless it was Alan Wyatt Jr., who's a great surfer and not a great rider. So it depends on who it was. But I love riding. I don't have horses anymore. I used to have them. I used to have hay burners in the yard, but I don't have those anymore. Hay burners. Yes.
Well, as I understand, you're also a musician. I was curious what your favorite style of playing guitar is, because I love fingerstyle. That's like my number one. If I'm going to sit down and play for just me, that's what I play. What do you play when you play
Fingerstyle. Yep. I like to. I have a pick. I use sometimes, but very rarely will I use a pick. I like fingerstyle, like Jim Croce. I like pretty music. We do some banging it out on the guitar stuff on the Odyssey too, but I really like things that remind me of songs like Operator or Have to Say I Love You in a Song, or Cat Stevens. I don't know if you know any of these names, but Cat Stevens had a wonderful finger picking style. It's not bluegrass, it's just pretty, kind of like almost classical in a way, like classical gas.
I'm actually learning Andante by Fernando Carulli.
Oh my goodness, well, do you have a gut string, do you have a nylon string guitar?
Yes, I do. I
Of
just
course you
relearned
do,
it
good
last
for you.
night. It took forever.
Oh yeah, do you have your calluses built up? You got to build them up, and then don't let them go away because it hurts to get them back. I'm going to be without my guitar for 3 days. This is my third day, and I'm scared to death that my calluses are going to recede because I've got to then
I've led worship
lean
for
on
a
it.
while, so I play a lot.
Good. Keep playing. Don't ever put it down. I made a mistake of putting my guitar down for about 25 years. And it took Alicia, the woman that song, Thank God You Do, is about, to get me to pick it back up.
Yeah, I don't think I could put it down that long.
Good.
It's kind of like
Good, yeah. Well, I was the kid with a guitar on my back in high school. Always. So people think the acting Dukes of Hazzard thing came first. And then I thought, oh, I'm famous. I'll do music. No, it was the other way around.
You're actually one of the first guys I remember, like, if you watch TV and somebody's playing guitar, a lot of times it's not their hands, it's not their fingers doing it.
Right.
And then when, like, if you played in Dukes of Hazzard or whatever, it was actually you. And
I play, yeah, and if you go to the website, I do a bunch of music in there, and I'm playing the guitar most of the time in it. So check it out. Check out the new music. I think the songs like Thank God You Do, you'll hear some great guitar playing, which is not me. On the record, we have the greatest guitar players in Nashville, and they are astounding.
I love, I think my guitar hero would probably be Brad Paisley, because he can just fly.
Oh, terrific, yeah. Great. Check out a guy named Tom Bresh. Tom, T-H-O-M, Bresh. He does a thumb picking style. It sounds like 3 or 4 people playing at the same time, and it's just him. It's crazy when you watch him. Watch him on YouTube. You go, my God, how can that be one person?
Yeah, I will do that.
Yeah, please do. Tom Bresh. Yes. Love that.
Two questions. The first one, going back to Christmas Comes to Willow Creek, do you have a favorite? Right.
Say that one more time.
Hold on.
Lima beans, I have a favorite. Lima beans. I know, it's weird.
Alright. Going back to Christmas Comes to Willow Creek, do you have a favorite scene or memory from that film?
Yes. My favorite scene in that movie is where Tom and I have a fight in the snow. I just love that. Because we fought so much on Dukes of Hazzard, and because I was such a Western fan, one of the things I always thought was a milestone in being an actor is doing a barroom fight. So when we did the fight out there in the snow and the lambs all scattered, I thought that was just great. It felt like John Wayne and Montgomery Clift and Red River. That's for all you older folk. I remember that. Yes, sir. Next question.
My second question, a little more personal. You mentioned your son has Asperger's syndrome.
Yes.
I do too, and I'm wondering how you dealt with that, how it felt raising a child with Asperger's syndrome.
It's tough, but what I did with Chasen is encouraged him to, anybody, one of the marks of Asperger's syndrome is that there's a big myth about people that multitasking is a great thing. It's not. Multitasking for me is the ability to do several things poorly at the very same time.
Same.
Right? So one of the gifts of Asperger's syndrome is the inability to even try to multitask. And I think that's a gift. So what I encourage Chasen, I encourage you, and people who love this man, is to help you even more focus on whatever it is you're focused on at the moment. Because I've never seen, when you're, how old are you?
22.
22. So when you're young, which you don't feel young to you, but you're young. You're young. Okay. What happens when you're 10, you're 8 and 9? I'm sure you've realized this. The younger you were, the odder you were, right? So the older you get, the more you start to find other friends, and you start to really focus on what it is you want to do, which personally I believe is what God has designed you to be. So when you So the gift that you have with Asperger's is to be able to focus so completely on that nothing else happens. And I'll tell you this, the wealthiest, most world-changing people I have ever met, whether they know it or not, have Asperger's. It requires extreme focus to really change the world, to really get something done, to really to build a better mousetrap. I don't know the individual that started Uber, but I guarantee you at 8, he or she was a very odd child. And people were worried about them. But then they looked at crowdsourcing, they looked at taxi cabs, and they said, wait a minute, this should be like this. And in a minute, an instant, they created a multi-billion-dollar industry. And look at Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs is someone, you look at old interviews with him, and I can tell because I raised someone who has Asperger's syndrome. And the tells are that someone has told them how to react and how to smile and how to try to be aware of where you are in space. You're not aware of where you are in space, and that's okay. Because you have something to change the world with. And if you have a tendency to stand on people's feet, then they can learn to get out of your way. Okay? So don't let anybody tell you that that you have a handicap. You have a diagnosis. Diagnoses come from normal people, from average people who don't know what it's like to see the world through your eyes. Don't see it today.